Disclaimer. The views and opinions expressed on the Powerhouse radio station are those of the host, guests, and callers, are not necessarily those of this station, its management, or other hosts or advertisers. The show, found on the Powerhouse radio station, can promote any lifestyle, belief, religion, political affiliation, or other personal practice. These shows are for entertainment purposes only and are not intended to treat, diagnose, and or claim any cure of disease or conditions. Opinions stated by various contributors to the Powerhouse Radio and its programming are not to be considered as endorsed by the Powerhouse Radio station. Visitors are urged to use their own discernment to draw their own conclusion. We emphasize the importance of keeping an open mind.
One volunteer whole range of products embodies fundamental nutrients necessary to maintain beautiful and healthy hair without having to combine an assortment.
Greetings, everyone. Welcome to, not yet. Okay.
Products are designed to rejuvenate, moisturize, create shine, fortify, and stimulate hair growth while leaving your hair feeling weightless and luxurious. Be sure to visit our website at www.onebywwankaa.com and follow us on Instagram, Facebook, and YouTube at One Bottle Kia. Let's get your healthy hair care journey started today.
All right. So thank you, Lady D. Big up yourself. Thank you to the Powerhouse Radio for sponsoring this show here. Thank you for our audience, our guests, everyone that's here with us today. For all the listeners who can't see us, big up yourself. Facebook, IG, YouTube. Thank you. I am Zephyr, the Medicare daughter, along with Malika, a breath of fresh air. All right. And our guest today is Verone. You've met Verone on one of our previous shows, and she is back because she has more to say. That's right. And we have another guest with us, our guest, Shandi. And Shandi will have, input on what our topic is today as well. And for all of you, your girl Zephyr, your goddess here, I'm going to share some experience on our topic today. And I'm sure a lot of you will be surprised, but you would love how I handled it, though. Today's topic is about domestic violence and living in contention. I think it's a very important topic to touch because we have so much going on in the world. Then we had lockdown all over the place. Can you imagine if you're already in a home with a violent partner, whether it's a man or a woman, and then you get locked down and restricted and no movement and all this stuff? Can you imagine what's going on in that household, right? So we've had a lot of statistics that we gathered from last year, and I'm telling you, it's really a serious situation out here. Malika, I'm going to turn it over to you, dear. Thank you.
Greetings to everyone. Thank you for joining us here on the Powerhouse Radio Show, and I am Meta and the Medicare Data. I want to introduce to you also. Verone, we've been introduced. Verone is going to speak today, and also Chanda is going to speak today with us. And we're definitely glad to bring this topic to you because it's very important for us to know about, to speak about, so that these things cannot be hidden any longer. And I just think the more that it's spoken about, the more that it can be dealt with. So Verone, if you would like to begin to share with us on this topic, we appreciate that.
Okay. With domestic violence, my experience is when I was in high school, I was in a long relationship with this gentleman. And I remember sometimes at first it always starts out so nice when you first fall in love. it's hot. It's like this fire that you just can't contain. And after a while we were in the relationship, he just got this anger that I just didn't see, because I only saw the love inside of him. It was to the point where if someone would say hi to me and I was wave back, he would try to beat me. So at first I thought it was, he was just playing, because it started out like a little push. And then after a while, the push went to him trying to shut the door on my hand, or him trying to, walk around with a knife or a gun to, threaten me or whatever. And I got the courage, because people thought that I was never going to leave him. And I remember I cut class and I went down to the courthouse and I filed a restraining order on him. And at first I couldn't get to him like I wanted to. So what I had to do was give them his class schedule. And they went to his class and they summoned him to come to court. And then finally, they put the restraining order in place. It was just me sitting on the on the bench at the courthouse, because in the islands, their family had a big name and they were well-known people. And being that I was from another island, I didn't have any connections like they had the connections. So I got the courage and I went, because I was afraid for my life and I was afraid for my son. I remember when I had to walk home from my job in the evenings, I was always frightened that he would come out of nowhere and he would hurt me. But I was one of the lucky ones, I should say, because years later, he apologized and he told me he was sorry. He reformed into a person I, speak to every now and again. But some people aren't as fortunate. When I joined the military and I was over soldiers, I was a sergeant in the military, there were girls that I would notice the sign right away, because I knew what it looked like when you were afraid of the person that you supposedly was in love with, or they were supposed to love you back. And they had women that would come in with black eyes, some of my soldiers, and I would talk to them and I would, take it to heart, because I know what they were going through, because I myself had been through it. So it was something that I was passionate about. And the thing about us all, we all have in common is we all think that in some way we deserve it. Oh, I shouldn't have said that to him. I shouldn't have done that. I know it upsets him. Why am I doing this? You try to find a way to make an excuse when the person is actually a monster or they need help. They're crying out for the help. I would never forget how angry he was at me, how mad he used to get, how it's like he wanted to kill me. And I wasn't a very big person back then. So it was easy for him to pick me up however he wanted, if he wanted to twist my arm or whatever. And it didn't matter where we were. As once the anger consumed him, he was just ready to just get it out in any kind of way. So when I saw, it was like 3 or 4 of my soldiers like that, and I was reaching out to them. One had stabbed her husband. She was tired of it. I'll never forget the call that day. And, she just it was like she had given up on herself. And she was just crying out for help. It's like nobody believed her, because every time they saw he and her together, it was like they were just so much in love. But behind closed doors, I had no idea it was going on until I saw her face one day. She came in and she was telling me, she didn't want to press charges because she loved her. And one of my male friends that was a sergeant with me, he told her, look in the mirror and say that. Tell the mirror that he loves you and look at all the bruises on your face. And she kept making up the excuse. She was in denial for a while until it got serious. Another one of my soldiers was shot because she was dating this one guy, and she thought that he deployed or whatever, he wasn't coming back. So she started messing around with another guy, and when he came and he saw her in the bed with him, she got up to see what a commotion was. Who came into the house? He practically broke into the house, and he shot her in her shoulder. And she was in the hospital. She was frightened. We had to put people to guard her outside of the room that she stayed in because she was there. She had to sit up. She didn't sleep. I wasn't sure how much she was eating, but she was in a lot of pain because she had a shot in her shoulder. And they finally
Wow.
shot the
Let me
guy.
ask you real quick so we can wind it down, because we do have another one. Let me ask you this. What did you take away from all this? What you've witnessed? How were you able to help these women or men, whoever was the abused party? What did you do? What suggestions did you have? What did you do for yourself? How did you move on? Let's wrap that up in a minute, and we'll get back to you in the second half. You can say some
Okay.
more.
What I had to do was educate them, let them speak to other women that were going through the same thing that they were going through. So they didn't feel like they were alone, that they had to carry this burden by themselves. And then I had to tell them about the outcome if they didn't put a stop to it. And I had to let them know, most of all, that I was there for them, that they could talk to me, that they could reach out to me. I wouldn't turn them away.
Yes. Yes. Yes.
Because some of the women
Wow.
get turned away. They like, this is the father of my child, or how am I going to pay the bills if he's gone?
Yeah, and the whole
They-
second make up excuses, and we get that too. So, and you know what? Let me share some statistics, please, really quick, and I'm gonna turn it back over to Malika. But every 9 seconds in America, a woman is assaulted or beaten. Every day in the U.S., more than 3 women are murdered by their husbands or boyfriends. We all know men are victim of domestic violence as well, but the statistics shows percentage it varies it's a wider scale. It's more higher percentage for women than men, right? So I'm not going to leave a man out. I just want to make sure I'm doing some statistics here, and there's a whole lot more. So 9 seconds. That's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. That's 9 seconds. Imagine every time you count to 9, some woman getting her head smashed in, right? Also, domestic violence is the leading cause of injury to women more than car accidents, muggings, and rapes put together. Do the math. All right, Malika.
That is a serious issue in many countries, not just America. So, Amila, we're going to have, I hope I'm pronouncing your name correctly.
Yes. Can you hear me fine?
Yes, we can hear you. So, Amila, please take a moment, 8 minutes, to share with us, the audience, what you would like
Okay.
to share with them.
Sure. Thank you for
Thank you for
having
being
me.
here.
I appreciate it. Let me first start off by saying I hate that we even have to have this discussion. Okay. And then it makes one wonder, how do you help eradicate this? And many of us know it starts at home and raising our own children and everything, right? So I know that's a whole nother topic. So when it started for me, I actually grew up in a house where I saw my dad beat my mom. We'd wake up in the middle of the night, 2, 3 o'clock in the morning, with them fighting, door closed, door locked, and we'd bust in their room. I remember one time my brother was in high school and he tried getting my dad off of my mom. And my dad was like, go play outside. It was like 2, 3 o'clock in the morning, and just shows you just that amount of rage and insistence he had on inflicting pain on her. So my whole life, I'm like, he was a great father, a great dad, but a terrible husband. He'd do things like, my mom drove a school bus for 40 something years, and where we are from, it's pretty much your own business and stuff, right? And he's self taught too. Fantastic with automotive, building homes, and all that good stuff. But I would always say he was a great dad, but not a good husband, and I never wanted to marry someone like him. Lo and behold, what happens? I married someone like him. So I had my first baby, and before I get there, let's say that physical violence doesn't domestic violence doesn't start physically, right? It's usually emotional and mental, and I for sure went through that before the physical started. So I remember my I had my first child, and I was so excited to go to the movies and old Applebee's right there in Conyers, Georgia, with the girlfriend after I had this baby. Okay, so she must have been about a month or so old, and I came back home, and he was sitting in the rocking chair, rocking the baby, and started insulting me, calling me out my name and everything like that, and threatened to hurt my child. So after that happened, of course I was worried about it, but I'm like, well, maybe, maybe it was me, right? Like Verone was talking about, maybe it was something that I did. And then I laid low for a very long time. Didn't really do much of anything except take care of the baby, and I couldn't wait to go back to work. I did the stay-at-home mom thing for about 6 months, but because I was getting so depressed, my out was to get back to work, y'all. And so then Halloween comes around of 2007, and my baby is about, she was born in April, so do the math. And we went out to a Halloween party at his best friend's house. He got fairly drunk. We got home, and he he forced me to have sex with him, is what I was saying, right? He raped me. And out of that, I became pregnant. I could not fight the man off or anything. It was hard until I just stopped because I was scared. Because again, he threatened to hurt my child. So what would he do to me too? Um, and so I went along with it. I ended up getting pregnant. And I knew instantly that I was pregnant, but I gave it a month, and I aborted that baby. So I'm a raised Catholic and everything. I'm pro-choice, whatever, but never wanted that to have to be my choice. So well into my 40s and everything, I struggled with the decision that I made to abort that baby, right? Um, and I knew if I had it, I couldn't guarantee that I would treat it well, given the
The
the way that it
energies.
was
Yeah.
conceived and everything. Absolutely. So it might have been a lack of maturity on my part. I don't know. But what's done is done. I dream about that baby till this day. Um, so fast forward, I knew I had to do something. My job was coming to an end in Atlanta. I had an option, and at the time, I was working for a Fortune 100 company, and relocation was an option. So I started thinking about my exit strategy. Where I lived, I knew I couldn't get enough money out of the house to do what I needed to do if I was going to divorce this man. So I needed his income in order to move to another house where I knew I could get more money with my relocation. So I used I was on, I guess, good terms with him, so that, hey, a new start type thing or whatever. But all the while, I knew I was orchestrating this exit plan. So we moved into this new house and everything, and we wasn't even really moved in fully. Bed wasn't put together. The baby was sitting on a mattress on the floor. And he and I started arguing about something, and he pushed me so hard, I flew across the room. And at that point, I'm like, okay, something is gonna give. So I started sleeping with a gun underneath my pillow. I ain't never used a gun in my life, but I knew I had this gun, right? I'm like, Lord, I hope I don't shoot myself. But I started sleeping with this gun under my pillow, and I asked him to leave. So it was my daughter's birthday, her 1-year-old birthday. We was at his mom's house, and I was leaving. As things started to get out of hand there, I was leaving, and he jumped in the car, the back seat of the car, and tried to get the baby out of her car seat. And as I'm driving and I'm reaching back to get him away from her, he starts hitting my arm. And then he starts turning my arm behind the seat. It felt like it was about to break my shoulder and everything. So I called my family. My brother drove from Louisiana that night, changed the locks on the door. Y'all know who I didn't hear from? My own dad, who
What?
spent years abusing my mom, right? But he did not even bother to say anything to me. But he still was always there for me as a father. So we ended up getting a divorce afterwards and everything. But it's just to say, what was it in me that that I attracted such a thing? And if I had to be honest with myself, um, I was living off of a timeline. Oh, I should be married by this time and have a child by this time and all that stuff, right? So there was an element of desperation in there. And for what? I have no clue, only because I had this timeline that I had to meet. And oh, he seems like he really cares about me and everything, right? But like Barone said, they all start off acting like you're the queen of the world and everything else. So that is my story. I'll bring that to an end. That's my story. Definitely not in that position today. And I still have those pictures and everything. And I speak to my children about it, though, even the hard part of having the abortion and everything like that, because I am adamant about making sure my own house is clean before I raise these children into adults and creating their own home so that it's absent of any type of violence.
Thank you,
Right.
Amila. Thank you, both of you,
Thank you.
for sharing your stories, sharing your
The
journeys.
stories.
Um,
Hey, let's real quick,
okay.
let's big up the comments. We have Delilah Boyd
Yes.
that's joining us tonight. Delilah, thank you. Thank you for being here, joining us. She said, yes, abundant peace, goddesses. And of course, I responded to her and say, hey, sis, love. But yeah, we
Thank you
do
for
know she's
joining us.
intact on stage today with us. So go ahead, Malika. We're all listening.
Yes. So one question that I have for the ladies is, what is, when you, in reflection, what are maybe some of the first few signs, you might say, that in reflection you can see now were there, that were indicators that maybe not that it was going to get to physical violence, but you felt were uncomfortable for you, or you felt an intuition that this was not going to be a good relationship, and then you just probably just pushed past it. But do
Yeah.
you remember or recall some of the earliest signs?
Verone, do you want to go first or you want me to go?
You could go first.
Okay. The character. I pinpointed to one thing as I look at my girlfriends and people that I know that might go through the same thing. They lie. They like to lie about the simplest of things. Okay. So, and then another thing, he didn't have a good relationship with his mother.
Mm.
So why would that be? Definitely came from different familial background, because even though we had that disturbance in our household, we were still a close family. And he did not have the same. And but I didn't find that out until later, okay? And even like simple things, like when we went on our first date, he was driving this car all the time, said it was his car. It was his mom's car and stuff. So when somebody has that in their character, it makes you question other things. And that is probably one of the simplest things that I wish I would have just said, you know what, there's much more to this, but I was young and dumb at the same time.
Verone, what would you say were some of the first few things that, as you look back in reflection, were there, but you weren't conscious of it at the time?
Whenever the rage would come on, his facial expression would change. Like he have a certain look to him. And then it was like when he was coming to attack me, it was like he was like in a rush. And then I listened to him and his mom argue one day, and he put some heavy Sunday school words under her, and I was shocked. And I asked him if he talks to his mom like that all the time. So that was the two signs that let me know that something was wrong with him. And I tried to question him, ask him, if he was beaten, if he was molested, why the anger? And he would deny it. He would say, I don't know what you're talking about. You know, he
Okay.
would never give me a straight answer.
Mm. Thank you, ladies. So we have Sister Delilah. She says, "So happy to be with the tribe." Yes, we are so happy to have you watching us. Thank you for joining us, and everyone else who's listening and watching. Thank you so much for being here. We just thank you. We're so grateful. I wanted to share some signs of abuse, if that's okay, before our break. Okay. So some warning signs that can give a person, male or female, some indications that this person may not be emotionally stable or mentally stable for and mature enough for a committed relationship are extreme jealousy, possessiveness. If their behavior is like unpredictable, they're erratic, or if they're even early on, if you notice they're verbally abusive to other people, or or maybe passive aggressive with other people, and or let's see, they have extreme, like they might be controlling. They early on in a relationship, they want to control where you go, who you talk to, who you're associated with, who comes to the house. They want to quickly build a relationship. Like, one thing that I found is
Yes.
that they quickly attach to you, and they quickly want to uh it's like they want to fast forward the relationship. It's like within a series of months, the relationship seems to have progressed years, you know. And so
Mhm.
um and then there are also, when it comes to your body and your person, this potential mate or this mate is disregards your boundaries, disregards your sense of being able to say no or yes, or decide for your body. They decide for you what they want to do and have happen to your body. So these are some of the things that can stand out as um, signs that the person that you're entering a relationship with could be potentially become abusive. And so it can just give you a moment to pause and reflect and really get to know the person even more, get to know their background, and get to know people who know them. That's another thing. Isolation. They like to isolate their partner from family members and friends.
Mhm.
And perhaps I'll share a little bit more on that later, but we're almost to our break. Medicare Data, do you have any words for us
Yeah, I'm
before?
going to take 2 minutes to kind of just elaborate on some more statistics because I think when we start talking numbers, we really can
Mhm.
see what's going on. But I always like to make sure I'm speaking about men and women and how things affect, because it affects all
Mhm.
of us, right? But just on different scales. 1 out of every 4 women, or I say woman, WOMBMAN. So when I speak
Mhm.
to each individual woman. So it's 1 out of every 4, and 1 out of every 9 men experience domestic violence. They have some serious numbers. I mean, 1 out of 3 women, 1 out of 4 men. It's like it's a continuous thing. They stay, even though these partners are exhibiting these behaviors, right? So when we come back from the break, Malika is going to introduce me, y'all, because I got something to say. Yeah, I do. Y'all gonna be so proud of me.
Yes.
The Hinkson Firm's mission is to provide superior legal service in the areas of family law, child welfare law, general legal services, and mediation by keeping convenience of the clients at the forefront. The Hinkson Firm's goal is to eliminate the stress of an already intense situation in your life by coming directly to your workplace and or a location close to your home for consultation, meetings, and mediation. The Hinkson firm customized legal attention based on the needs of each client while treating every client with the dignity and respect they deserve. while fighting strongly and fiercely for justice and their legal rights. The Hinkson firm can be reached at 470-499-4704.
You're in tune to the Powerhouse Radio, linking the world to the Caribbean.
Okay, we are thankful and grateful for the radio station, for the Powerhouse radio station, and taking a break. So just remember, you can join the Powerhouse radio station on other days of the week to get into some juicy chit chat. So make sure to look up the schedule on our the YouTube page, the Powerhouse Radio, and be sure to tune in. So next up, we are going to have drum roll, please. The Medicare doctor, Zephyra herself, to share with us on this very important topic of domestic violence.
Yes, my dearies, I'm so happy to be here to cover this topic today and just share with women, especially after 2020 and 2021 with all of the lockdowns and stuff. Domestic violence have really skyrocketed. And just so you all would know, there's a reason why I advocate against domestic violence. And I'm savage with it too. Yeah, I literally advocate against it. I mean, I know we have been like teeth in the night trying to get women and children to safety. I mean, all premeditated, how we're going to do it, where we're going to take them, help them out. We were like these, I don't even want to say the word like saviors because I don't want anyone to take that anyway, but we helped so many people and they were very grateful for it because they needed someone who was willing to risk their life to help them. And I was willing to do that. And I wasn't alone. I had a whole crew. It was a whole crew of us. And we didn't have no problem being ready to take on any battles either. I want to share a story with you. Growing up, I did not grow up in America. In America, I did not grow up here, and we grew with our grandparents, both our grandmother and our grandfather. We have never experienced seeing anything like that, not in our time growing up. And but I am one of the youngest grandchildren. So even if the elder ones seen anything, I've never seen it. Granny they never argue in front of us, fight or anything. It's not until I started to get older and probably by this time, 13 or so, and I'm already had moved from South America to North America. That's when I start to hear stories about when my grandparents was raising their children. I had an uncle, a late uncle. He's no longer here, but he was very protective of my grandmother because of what he saw happened between granny and grandfather. And he saw some violence. He saw, the verbal abuse. He experienced, he saw that, and he grew up very defensive. And that's why I think he always defended women. Not to mention, I knew he had a little domestic violence of his own, but it was more, I think, when you're trying to get away from a situation and it keeps drawing you back, and then you're such a big person, it's like, look, I'm not going to have anybody hitting on me. But it was just so much. And I think because we grow up in a situation, especially when you're seeing it, it's so unconscious or subconscious. It's in there. A blueprint is in there. Mm-hmm. So some things will happen and it'll be like deja vu to us because we've seen it before, but we probably suppressed it, blocked it away. Maybe we were very, very, very young. And don't think because you were 1 year old witnessing something that you're not going to remember it. It gets into your memory. Then, of course, I've seen aunts. I've seen, even my mother that had her friend, and I really didn't see her with no black eye, but he was trying to control her, and he would be verbal, and if she was rebellious about it, like he would grab her or do something like that. But she's a fighter, so she's not having it. But when he tries to overpower her, I was young, so my brothers, they were more angry. My eldest one at the time was in the military, so he wasn't home. The other one, I think I was more fiery than that one, because I was young, but I was ready to jump on this guy, right? So I remember one day there was a party, and this man he was in company of his family, and my mother and her friends and cousins and her family were at another table. They were all at this big dance. And because some nice single gentlemen were at the table conversing with them and everything, making sure they had drinks and all that, he came over there and spilled my mother drink on her, and probably knock a cigarette out of her hand or something like that. I'm like, who are you, dude? You don't even live in the house, right? Okay, so I didn't know all this was going on because I didn't go to that party. But when I heard about the commotion, I didn't even know it was my mother they were speaking about, because my mother said she's going to leave. And she decided, let's just go. She just went ahead and left. He followed her outside. Well, I'm going to take you home, and grabbing her up and stuff. And my aunts and them, they rolled up out of that ballroom, draped him up a little bit, and they had him on the sidewalk. And they walked my mother to the corner of Flatbush and got her in a taxi, and she went on home. When I heard about this story, I found out it was my mother who was in this little commotion. And here it is again. I'm saying, didn't I tell this man, leave my mother alone and stop trying to control her? He used to control his household, right? So I went to check on my mother, because I was no longer living in the house at that time. But I went, checked on my mother. And as soon as I walked in the door, who I see sitting in the chair begging for forgiveness. It didn't matter to me. I walked straight to the man, and I let him know, put your hand on my mother again. I'm letting you know your house is going to go up in smoke with all your family in it. And because it's attached to 10 other houses on that block, the whole block going to go up. I said, do it again. I'm letting you know it's going to be an inferno over there. That was the last time he put his hand on her. But nevertheless, I was young, when I seen a lot of stuff. But I was at the point where I didn't like to see my aunt ended up in ICU and all that. And I wanted to take her husband out, and she called and begged me to spare his life. And she's up there almost dead. I'm like, what? Why do women do that, right? So I'm already so defensive inside of me that I was like, I ain't going to go going through that. Yeah, well, at 17, I was already living with someone. At 17, I was living with a king, my king at the time. But anyway, let me explain something to you. That's still high school age, right? This man was trying to tell me when to leave for school, when to come home from school. And I was on track team. I was on swimming team and stuff. I had to leave early some days, later some days, because we had practice and stuff. And when I started seeing this man trying to tell me what to do, how to do it, when to do it, and putting time spans on me, I said, oh, no, he not. I was literally rebellious, because in my mind, I'm saying I'm not going to be my aunt. I'm not going to be my mama. I'm not going to be my friends' mothers when I seen them all beat up and all that. I said, I'm not going to be that woman. So like Verone had mentioned, and even Emil had mentioned, at first, when you get into a relationship, everything is nice. Then you're going to say, okay, you know what? I can do this with this person because they're nice to me and all that. But then you're going to start getting those restrictions. They're going to start separating you from friends and family. They're going to start doing all that stuff because they have a habit of hitting women or hitting men, right? But let's talk about my situation. I'm XX chromosome and I love XY chromosome. So we talking about a man here, right? So that man started to tell me this and that. And I was like, I'm not doing that. And I'll tell him, no, I'll do what I want to do. I'll come in when I need to come in. I'll do, I have to do this. I go check on my mother if I want to check on my mother. And where he didn't like that, because he was so used to when he tells a woman what to do, they do it. And if they didn't, he'll tump them down and all this kind of stuff. But rude awakening, because when I saw the first fist swung, it was on. It was a fight. My family, my friends, my school, no one ever seen me with no black eye, busted up lip, bloody nose, battered and bruised. Because you know what? You're not hurting me. I'm not going to allow you to hurt me. I love myself too much. And I've seen so many women around me hurt, not to mention our ancestral past that we've learned about growing up. You know, you kind of build a resentment inside of you. So little did he know, I was already ready for that. But let me tell you, I was ready for it. It was coming and I was already fighting. We scrapped. And one mistake I made, and it only takes one mistake. When the apology came, I softened up and I stayed. That's the mistake. Stay. Why? Because once they see that you're going to take it and stay because they can soften you up with an apology, it's going to happen again. And it did. Fights. My mother can tell you. Matter of fact, she said she would have loved to be on this panel today. She wanted to come downstairs so she can tell y'all. I used to call my brothers, and mother know my brothers would rush out the house, jump in a taxi. It's only 7 minutes away where I was. Jump in a taxi right there on Washington Avenue. Get up the road, Eastern Parkway. Get up the road, right? And when they got their fight is over. And sister is still standing on her 2 feet, no bumps, no bruise, no nothing. But look at that player, because I can't fight this man, but I will grab a 2x4. I will grab a pipe. I will grab a cutlass. I will grab an ice pick. I'll bust a vodka bottle upside your head. Don't play with me. You're not going to hurt me. And the thing is, the two of you fight each other. No, I'm not fighting him. He's fighting me. I've never one day rushed this man and hit him for nothing. Every time the offense came, it came from him. But because he didn't really know who he was dealing with, he kind of got some bumps and bruises along the way. I have a scar here till today. Let me see if I can, and I don't mind showing it because I show it. I wear blouses so it can show. It's a keloid. The skin is missing from there. One day he was holding me where I couldn't fight back. And I started to bite his hands, bite his finger. He said, "Oh, you want to bite?" And he bit me right there and bit my skin right off. I became an inferno. I was enraged because I said, oh, he want to hurt me. Hurt me is one thing, but then hurt me means that you're willing to, just before you just leave me alone and walk away, you want to hurt me. And that's when it sunk in that you wanted to hurt me. And I'm telling you, we fought at that, Mom's at the time. She had a 4-story brownstone in Brooklyn. We started from the first floor to the bottom. And I'm telling you, when that happened, that fight ended up all the way to the 3rd floor, back down to the 1st floor. Literally, we were running and fighting and grabbing each other's legs and pulling it back down the steps and punching and swinging and kicking people off, kicking them down. Oh, it was wild. But guess what? You're not going to hurt me. I'm not going to allow you to hurt me. And I knew I had this resentment inside of me for men who like to hit women. I already knew that. And I already knew you got to pay attention to the signs. You have to pay attention to when they start giving you commands, like if you're a child, or it's like a narcissist. They want to be in control and they want you to be to blame and think that, feel guilty about making them, release all this rage and anger. That's not your problem, women. It's not your problem. They have to take care of their anger. And don't you sit in the house while they're trying to take care of that. Let them take care of it. You go ahead and step aside for a moment there and take care of your hurt. Heal your wounds. Get through it. Peel back some layers and just get all the emotions out that you're feeling. And let this man either go through some kind of counseling or something. And then, like I said, let him have some time. Let him prove that, he's no longer this person who's willing to hurt you. You see, love and emotions are two different things. Love is energy. Emotions is attached to anger and those type and rage. And listen, even if you're having a happy day and you're feeling no good, that's emotions. Emotions are attached to feelings, but never get it mixed up with love. A man put his hand on you, he don't even love himself. He don't respect woman.
Right.
Any man beating a woman, and he got a daughter, a mother, sister, a wife, they lack respect for themselves there. They don't love themselves because they probably have been a product of their environment. Amelia had mentioned before, they used to witness this as children, being abused by their, watching their mother being abused by the father and all this kind of stuff. Children grow up with these things and it's blueprinted inside. And because we have these feelings inside, somehow we attract this thing because it's an active vortex we got going there with this energy that we don't like. So if we carry this kind of energy inside, we have to release it so we don't continue to attract it. I attracted that man because of all that I've witnessed. And I had built up resentment, but the energy, the ball of energy was there. Everything is going to be attracted to you, whether sometimes it's negative or positive, and then you just have to choose, right? Sure. But after that relationship, I walked away and I told him, I said, when I walk away, you'll be so sorry. And he didn't believe me because he thought it's going to be an apology again. But I remember the day I did decide to walk away. And I said, I'm visiting California for a couple of weeks, and take him to the airport. And so the next day, took him to the airport, got all my stuff out the car, was JFK Airport, my dear, on my way to Cali, right? And he said, wait a minute, no hug, no kiss. He said, what, gosh, what about some love? And I looked at him, I said, what love are you talking about? He said, what do you mean, what love? He said, I love you. And I said, okay. He said, so when you coming back? I said, I'm not. Bye. And I walked away and I never looked back because I know that will hurt him. I didn't have to hurt him. I didn't have to take a cutlass and swing so. I didn't have to fire shut off of him. I just left him. That was hurt enough because, see, I didn't come back. He even left New York and went to another state where he was later killed a couple of years later. And they had one particular family member that said that he would still be alive if I hadn't left him. See, and a woman she was a woman that said that. If you want to stay at your house and your man beating your behind and you're okay with that, fine. But don't tell no other woman not to leave that man. Right. Matter of fact, don't even give nobody no advice. You're not worthy to give anyone advice when you're sitting there taking licks. All right. So I'm one of those women. When I experienced domestic violence, it was going to be on that level. Mm-hmm. And if I had to kill somebody, I wouldn't have no problem doing that either. It was life or death when we fought, because I said, you're not going to kill me. I'll kill you first. So I want some of you women who feel shame and guilt and you feel like you don't have nowhere to go. You better call somebody. You better say something. It's unhealthy. And when you're living in contention, always arguing all the time and all that, those are red flags. You're not resonating. It doesn't resonate. Is that the frequency you really want to be on? It's a low vibration. We have to raise our vibration. And when you raise your vibration, you experience peace and love. So if you're going to stay in a home arguing because, we got cheering, who gives a crap? I ain't taking no licks for no cheering. And I ain't taking no licks for no man. I ain't taking no licks for no grand cheering either. I'm not staying nobody. We all going to get out of here and leave him here by himself.
Yes. Wow.
I would face all of my fears, all of the mystery. I would face everything. Just so I don't get hurt. So you all need to think about that. You all need to really pay attention to the signs, the red flags. Don't make the mistake. Don't stay after that apology. That's when you need to separate yourself, get into counseling, do something, but then you really need to rectify the situation somehow. It's either you're going to be together and be at peace or you're going to not be together. But don't be afraid. And it doesn't matter how much money he have. Money can't buy love and money can't buy peace. And money can't buy your life when he takes it from you. And money certainly can't repair that mental abuse that children view and see, and it impacts them through their entire life. I want you to know it's really a violation to continue to batter and bruise women, right? So I'm happy to share that little story with y'all. I hope some women get some spunk from this story tonight. Go and get your CNC girl, conceal and carry. Don't even let them know you got a gun. And go to Home Depot and buy 2 cutlass. Just keep it in certain corners so that way when he starts swinging, you just can reach for something and just what? Cut off that. Yeah. Anyway, my dear Malika, I know we have 10 minutes and I really want to hear from you.
Thank you. Thank you for sharing your story with us, sharing your experience with us, and sharing, some red flags to look out for. And that's something I want to share with the audience and everyone is if you are the person who is on the outside and you are witnessing a friend or family member going through or getting into a relationship with someone, like you are able to recognize red flags and perhaps your family member friend is not, or perhaps you don't know any red flags. So I just wanted to share that we really have to value our relationships with one another, and I know that starts with valuing the relationship with ourselves. So in valuing the relationships with each other, we have to notice when our friends and family member are not in a healthy relationship. And on the flip side, when a friend or family member comes to you, I mean, there's like a lot of things that are coming up in my mind in regards to when a family member shares with another family member things that they see as red flags. There are some issues of trust in different families,
Yep.
and so there could be some underlying issues. If we're just going to stick with this topic and there are healthy relationships between family members or mostly healthy, when a family member comes to you and says, "Hey, I see something that doesn't really seem right," it's really a good space and opportunity to sit down and evaluate. Take some time to evaluate with your family member the relationship that you're in. I think that I know there's this thing that, what happens in our house stays in our house. What's our business is our business. And because of this type of thing, a lot of abuse has been allowed to run rampant in many households, abuse of spouses and abuse of children, and even these days, even abuse of parents. Um, but when you find yourself being faced with the red flags, it's really important that you understand there is someone who loves you and who will love you. And it first starts with you. So when you start to notice that you're seeing red flags in your partner, understand that it is okay to leave that relationship. You do not need to fear that no one will love you
Yes,
or
I.
something like this, because there will be someone who is much healthier emotionally and spiritually and mentally to love you. And you just have
That's
to
right.
make sure that you also are healthy emotionally and well balanced. So when you see a family member going through something, do your best to approach this topic with facts, and you can also always look up domestic violence signs, and you can share that with your family member to have this conversation in a way that they can hopefully be receptive, so that you can help them to get out of an abusive situation before it becomes um, life threatening. And so this topic is just so important,
Broad.
and it's very broad and it's very important.
Yep.
And I in high school I had a friend who we were best friends, and she got this boyfriend and I was happy for her, but then slowly but surely he started to manipulate her so that she wouldn't be close to her friends and family. I
Yep.
noticed these things, but I didn't exactly know how to get her to see what we saw as her friends and family. And I know a lot of times fear plays a big factor. Fear of being hurt,
Yes.
fear of them hurting family members, fear of them hurting the children. And so there's just an opportunity there for um, the person in the situation and for family and friends to really be supportive and to grab onto each other, you know, to
Mhm.
be um, because the situation is like a really heavy one. Everyone wants to be in love. Everyone wants to have that partner who's with them. You can rock your whole life long with them. So the thought that you found that person, and then, oh, you have to leave that person. And what if you don't find that person? I know that plays a role. And so, or the
And
stigma.
a lot of shame come in too. A lot of
Yes.
shame. Because when they go out and they have, everybody think they're happy and all that. But then when
Yes.
they go home, it's something
It's
else.
not.
So they always put on a facade just to deal with friends and family, even work.
Yeah. Yes. So we just got to be aware and
Yeah.
definitely um, take into consideration our friends and family.
We're going to big up Delilah Boyd again. She said, yes, love. Yes, love. We are warriors. Call
Yes.
on your tribe. She's saying, call on your
Yes.
tribe. Right?
Yes.
Yeah. So, yeah, she said, call on her tribe, period.
Period. Yeah.
Yes, sequin. Sometimes it's the void the other person is filling. All of that.
Yes.
All of that, dear.
Yes.
But whatever it is, we attract them into our lives because see, we're looking for something, but we look at the surface and don't get to know the substance of the person. We get to know what they show us, the money, the smiles, the good times, all that nice stuff, even the little walk up and thing. Yeah. But that ain't all, dear. If there's no love and peace, we don't need that contention. We don't need to be living in a home with all this kind of stuff. We do have right, Delilah Boyd said right. And so what we're going to do, though, we got about another 3 minutes. All About Love is going to be on tonight at 7 p.m. It's following the I Am Meta show. So you all remember, I Am Meta. We are here. I'm Zephyra, a Medicare doctor. This is Malika, Bread of Fresh Air. We're here every Sunday, 6 p.m. We do have some fabulous guests and stuff that comes on and join us to share their story, share their insight, and some just have great suggestions, right? So, Verone, let's take a half a minute. What you got to say to listeners out here, men or women who are experiencing domestic violence and who are living in contention? A half a minute.
Get help right away. You don't have to be brave. You don't have to be scared. Just come as you are.
Yes. Get right. Okay. So, Amila, what do you have for the audience to take away from this show?
Peace is underrated. And if you need to do whatever you can to create your peace.
That's right. Malika, I know you
Yes.
got some love for him.
Yes, just you know what? Number one is love yourself. Take care of yourself. If something doesn't feel right in your body, you don't feel comfortable. If it's not a hell yes, it's a hell no. So
For real. I
love
mean, we
yourself.
are excited
I
for the
love
moment.
that.
Yes.
Yeah, we're excited
Yes.
for the moment, but then when you see them little red flags, and we kind of give you some red
Yes.
flags already, but when you see them, watch it. I'm gonna talk about a few more of these comments. I'm gonna shout out. Sequin says sometimes it's the void the other person is filling, right? The Dollar Boy said right. Sequin says self-awareness is a must. Delilah Boyd said, yes, I am so happy to join you goddesses next week at this table. Delilah Boyd will be sitting with us because next week topic at 6 p.m. on the I Am Mental Show is guilt and shame, domestic violence. We're still talking about domestic violence, but we're talking about the different levels of it. There are so many different compartments that create it. All right. So we love you all. Thank you for being here. Big up yourself. Sequina said, exactly. Peace out. Love to you all. Thank you to the viewers. Thank you for the subscribers. Thank you for the sponsors. And please do join us again.
Thank you.